Today I have Vanessa Horner. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Let's start with your upbringing. What was your childhood like?
Let's see. I was born in San Jose, California. And I have a little brother that's 3.5 years younger than me. We grew up, my parents made very good money. So we would go on vacations, travel. Like we went to the Bahamas on a cruise. We went to Mexico on a cruise, and then just up and down the California coast. So I felt very privileged. I didn't really realize any of my issues at first, because in my mind, the concept of a healthy family was your parents are together, both working, and you have money. We were well off. We weren't rich, but we had pretty much anything that we needed plus some. So yeah.
So your parents were together your whole life?
Yeah, well, all the way up until I was 21. So my brother was 18 when they divorced, and I was 21. I had already gotten into my addiction at that point, so I used that as an excuse to just dive deeper. So yeah.
So do you think, you guys were well off and you felt privileged, but it was a loving home?
Oh, for sure. Okay, so it was a loving home, definitely. My dad is an alcoholic, but he was more of a weekend warrior. It wasn't something that I was super aware of, but now obviously I do. So yeah, being that my mom, they were both loving. My dad was more emotionally disconnected, I guess, not as available in that sense, but I have a lot of mental health issues. So as a kid, I didn't understand what the fuck is wrong with me. I was I didn't know that I had severe anxiety and depression. I just thought why, something is wrong with me. Why am I not like the other kids? Because I would get so anxious that my stomach would literally tremble, and I would feel it, I couldn't control the tension in my stomach. And sometimes I would shake, just in having a normal conversation, at school. So, and I was always overthinking everything. So even though now I know that I have mental health issues and I've been, dealing with that, at the time, it just wasn't, this is what in the 90s, it wasn't really talked about back then. So, yeah.
At what age do you think that started? As far back as you can remember?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't have a ton of memories before around 9, but that was also when I was abused by my biological father did not raise me. So when I talk about my dad, I'm actually talking about my brother's dad, who adopted me when I was I want to say I was 3. But my biological sperm donor, if you will, he sexually molested me. So that is when I think everything started, because I don't remember much before that. And also I do remember the memories that I do have is right after that first incident happened. It was only one that I know of. I had the first feeling of wanting to take my own life. I remember we were on a 4-wheeler coming out of a kiwi farm, whatever. And I felt I wished that I would just fall off the 4-wheeler and die. And to my memory, did not ever feel like that before. So I think that's when the anxiety and depression really started. Luckily, I'm very intelligent, right? So school was easy, the book work, tests and projects, everything was very easy when I did it, but I would always put everything off to the last minute. So that was a source of stress, but I always got A's and B's. I was in all honors classes and stuff. So that academic side of school was easy, but everything else, yeah, I hated it. I hated school because I was so nervous and so anxious, and I always felt like a weirdo, I didn't fit in. So yeah, pretty much school sucked. It was just very uncomfortable. I didn't have one certain group of friends. I had a friend in this group, a friend in that group. So I just always just felt like a weirdo, which I am, but now I embrace it.
Okay. So when did you start using? What introduced you to using or drinking or that life?
So my best friend, her and I met, so she was a year younger than me, and we became close right away. I want to say I was in 7th grade and she was in 6th grade, and she was very rebellious, but she also got me into church. So it was an interesting combination, because even though technically she was the bad influence on me, her family thought that I was the bad influence on her because I didn't come from a church family, right? My parents didn't make me go to church. And So she's the one that would be like, oh, hey, do you want to go to this? Like, she knew about all the parties. She knew the older people that were having, like, you know, I grew up in Modesto, so it's like a cow town. There's people having, like, you know, 3 kegers in their big ass ranch property or whatever. So she's the one that got me first into drinking and smoking weed. So I was like in junior high. I was always curious about different things because, like, well, I guess rewind to when before I got introduced to drugs and alcohol, I used to get like the instant coffee, and I would put a whole bunch of instant coffee in like the water bottles when they first came out, when it was like everybody was buying water bottles. And I would make it like super saturated, high amount of caffeine, and that was like my very first addiction, I would say. But I know it's kind of funny, right? Because I would literally carry the water bottle around, and so much so that I was hanging out with my friend, and her mom was like, what does Vanessa have in that water bottle? And I was like, oh, it's just coffee. And she was like, let me see. And she like took it and smelled it, and she still called my mom and told her. My mom was like, yeah, it's just coffee, it's fine, you know. So, and I think she thought I was carrying around like alcohol, right? Yeah. But it wasn't, it was just caffeine. Yeah, smoking weed and drinking. And then I was curious about stimulants because I, you know, like drinking a lot of coffee. She, my best friend that got me into stuff, she was able to get a hold of some cocaine. So I ended up doing it for the first time. It wasn't until I feel like I might have even have already graduated at this point. I did psychedelics while I was still in high school. Yeah, because my first job, I worked at a photography studio, and I met this guy that I was dating there, and her boyfriend and my boyfriend all did coke for the first time. I must have been maybe 19. And then shortly after that, so that was it. That one time I did it with her and them. And then shortly after that, I met this guy who was working at this magazine company where I was a temp at, because I had gone to massage school. I know I'm all over the place, right? I had gone to massage school right out of high school. And my first, after I graduated massage school, but before I got my first massage job, because I was working on getting my license, I worked at this magazine company for like 2 months. And of course I met this guy who, I was 19, he was 27. He was this like really cute Mexican guy, like totally my type. And I didn't know that he was a drug dealer. Like, how would I know, right? I'm a kid at 19. And, you know, as I'm getting to know him, it's like he's got coke, he's got, you know, meth, he's got like, and he didn't, now I know a lot more because I am, you know, at the time I was so like naive, you know. So I did get into doing a lot of cocaine with him. It got to where, because we were selling things, or I was going around with him, we just had like an unlimited supply. So it started with cocaine. I did it every day for 2 years for the most part with him, until we broke up. It was my first time being like, I think that I'm really in love. Like, I had dated a little bit in high school, but I was such a nerd and so like insecure that I didn't really pursue anything. And I was just like very like, you know, timid and stuff. And this guy was so into me, and I was like, oh my gosh, like maybe this is the one, right? And I got addicted to the cocaine. So obviously when we broke up at 2 years, he just cut me off. Well, I guess that's not obvious, but I was so strung out that I didn't know, I didn't really know how bad it was until we broke up. And then I realized that like, I could not function without drugs. I was like hysterical crying, you know, and there was this guy that we used to sell to who was more of a meth head. And so I just showed up at his house like hysterical because me cut off from, like, you know, in Modesto, it's like a very small town, so I couldn't get cocaine in that town. He got me into meth like right away. So it basically was almost overnight where I went from using cocaine every day to using meth every day. And that lasted 5 years. I mean, it was crazy. Like, the amount of drugs that I've done, like, it's so crazy to me that I even lived through all of that, because my memories start getting really like sparse around that time, you know. So I met my first girlfriend. I came out, right? So since the relationship with my ex was pretty traumatizing, because he was just really controlling, and he would accuse me of cheating, even though, like, come to find out he cheated on me. I had been interested in women, like, I just never expressed it, because being that I got introduced to church and became a Christian when I was hanging out with, I was taught in that church that being gay is wrong, so I suppressed it. But after all this stuff happened, I decided that I was done with men and that I was gonna just date women. Oh, my very first girlfriend, I met her online and we met up, and her name was, we got together right away, and also I was doing meth with her. And then while and I were living together, that's when I met who were coming in from a car accident to the chiropractor I worked at getting massages. And so, you know, you're in the room, just her and I, when and I would be in the room, we started talking about our girlfriends with each other, and it became very apparent that like neither of us were really happy in our relationships. So we proceeded to make this, you know, elaborate plan to break up with our girlfriends and get together. And this is around the time that texting first came out. So it was so easy because we could just text each other, and we could be all four in the same room hanging out, and we would be texting and planning and plotting. And that's what we did. Like, I broke up, first kicked her out, like came over and we're like just being my moral support. We're all sitting there smoking weed and drinking or whatever. I were together off and on for 7 years. Our relationship was extremely toxic. Yeah, we got into pretty much everything. We would do coke, we would do meth, we would what else we did? I mean, did we do Molly? No, we smoked a lot of weed. And we were, oh, I remember it was like, I thought I was so cool because I learned that you could put coke in your weed pipe and smoke it. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. So I was like, I got really into that, where I always put coke in my weed pipe and smoked it, and I carried it around. I remember even being at like a kid's birthday party, and I like went in the side yard to smoke. Like, I was like, oh, I got it. You know, I was just constant. Yeah, it's a wonder that my brain still works. So after and I broke up one of the times, right? I was working at this spa, and there was a guy that worked there, and he was married. But of course, you know, when you're at a massage place and you got time in between clients, you know, we started talking. So we ended up, you know, basically hooking up. And I felt really, really guilty about it because he was married, but yet, because I was doing a lot of drugs, right? I just was like, oh, it's fine, like, you know, whatever. And so during that time, I was doing a lot of meth. I had managed to get a prescription for Xanax, and I was taking a lot of Xanax and smoking a lot of meth. And then I would still do coke sometimes and drink and smoke weed, right? But looked into putting myself into an outpatient program. So his wife went through his phone, and she saw our text messages, and so she called me, and she was like, I know what's going on, like, you need to confess to me. And I started bawling, and I justified it because I say that him and I were hooking up, but we weren't actually like going all the way. We just did everything else. So I said that to her as if somehow that was like a justification. I was like, I just want you to know, you know, we never had intercourse. And it's like, okay, that doesn't like help. But in my mind at the time, you know, but I still felt very, very guilty. So I decided that I was going to put myself in an outpatient program. I went and talked to the owners of the massage place I worked at, and they were like, okay, well, we can hold your job for you. But, you know, from now on, like, you have to stay clean and sober. Otherwise, you know, you're not going to be able to work here. And in that outpatient program, I met a girl who I had a crush on, and she ended up relapsing. And guess what? I relapsed with her, you know, because I went to her house one day. She's like, oh, hey, I got some shit. So I started smoking meth with her. And I'm not sure how long passed, but not super long before I was like, I'm so fucked up. Like I started being extremely paranoid to where I thought that her and this dude, I guess it was her boyfriend, that we were hanging out, and I thought that they were like plotting to kill me. And I think even now, like looking back, they did play into it, like they thought it was funny, you know, because I started to think that there was a bomb in my car, or that they were making a bomb to put in my car. And so that was
They just fed it.
Yeah, they did. I remember one time we were in the living room where I lived, and we were smoking meth, and then the guy was like or something. And yeah, and I mean, I'm not hallucinating this, that really happened. So it was probably the next day or something, right? Like I go park like 3 blocks away from my mom's house, right? I walk to her house, and I'm like, mom, and I whispered, I was like, Mom, I just need you to know, don't worry, I parked 3 blocks away, but there's a bomb in my car. And she just looked at me like, she was like, oh, honey, and I don't remember between that and the intervention, but within however long, like the girls that I lived with, they were the daughters of one of my mom's friends. So they, as soon as I went to sleep, they had set up to where my brother and sister-in-law came and took off with my car, like before I was asleep, right? So, and then I get woken up and my mom and her girlfriend at the time are like, all right, well, here's your choice. I mean, I'm sure they said some nice things. I don't remember any of it, but my choice was either I could leave with a garbage bag full of clothes and my ID and like good luck, or I could, have them drive me to San Francisco to a rehab and with also a garbage bag full of clothes and my ID. And so that's what I did. So my first inpatient rehab was in San Francisco. I did like it because it was just so different, right? It was like, Modesto's a small town. San Francisco is a big city. I had visited there a ton of times growing up. I love San Francisco. Anyways, it was this big building that had, like a mess hall and all different, all these rooms, and there was an elevator, and it was co-ed. I thought it was really cool, but I got exposed to a lot of culture that I had not been exposed to before, which isn't bad, but it was like a shock to me. So it was I don't know, I was uncomfortable, I guess, you could say, but I got the seeds were planted, right? Like, oh, look, I can be sober, because previous to that, I kind of just thought I'm just going to die on drugs. Like, that's what's going to happen. So I got to go to AA meetings. I got to go to NA meetings. Just the experience that I had there was definitely, it impacted me, but not enough. Like, I wasn't ready, right? Like, I didn't get sober because I wanted to, even though I had put myself in outpatient before that and professed to everybody that, I'm going to stay sober and, I really want to fix my life. But I didn't really, actually. I think I more did it because I just felt dumb. Like, I was dating this married guy. I felt guilty, right? And I thought that that's what I should do. Well, also because, so my uncle, who, my mom's baby brother, he was in and out of rehab and in and out of like treatment facilities and sobriety, like for as long as I can remember. So like, I knew about it, right? So I'm sure that was a big influence on like why I decided to put myself in outpatient the first time. But in San Francisco, while I was in that rehab, there was a guy that I, fell for. It's a lot of my relapses, if not all of them, have been around relationships. So, so he had lived in San Leandro before the rehab, and then he had just gotten out of prison. I'm not sure how long before that, but he left, and then I left. So it was like I followed him, and I convinced my family that I was fine, even though I was only in the rehab for 2 months. Like, it's gonna be all good. I'm gonna stay sober. I really, really thought that I would stay sober. I did. Every single time I did. But I didn't have a program. I didn't do anything other than just get a job. And within, I don't even know, maybe like a few months. So this guy, his drug of choice is crack. So one day we're fighting and he's like, I want to go get high. Like, we're going to go get, and I was like, no. But he's like, no, it's fine. It's going to be fine. So he convinced me because I had never done crack and I wanted to try it. So I still remember it like it was yesterday, because I was like, oh my God, this is so good, right? So yeah, I started doing crack with him, and within a couple months, we were living in my car in Richmond, California, in not the best area. So it was really dangerous. I don't think I really realized how dangerous of a situation that I had put myself in. It got so bad that towards the end, we were renting my car out for crack. So we would just post up at some crack house, and the drug dealers or whatever would take my car, and they'd be gone all day. And then by the time my car came back, it had no gas in it. So that lasted for like 23 days. And then finally on that last day, when we got the car back, there was gas in it. And I was like, all right, like, I'm leaving right now. Do you want to go or not? And he was like, yeah. So we left. I dropped him off at his sister's house in San Leandro, which is where we had been staying before we started, living in my car. And then I went to my grandma's house in Fremont, and I was like, I had been cutting. So like the sweatshirt I was wearing had like blood on the arm. Like, I don't know, who knows the last time I took a shower. Like, I was disgusting. And I told my grandma, like, look, like when I start coming down more, like I will fight you for my keys. So like I need you to like break my keys, slash my tires, do something, because I won't be able to like control myself when I start coming down. So, you know, by the grace of God, right, like she called my mom, my brother, sister-in-law. I had been basically missing for, I don't know, a couple weeks at least. I sold my phone for crack, you know, so there was no way for people to find me. And my brother and sister-in-law came again, took off with my car, you know, and then my mom took me to San Jose to my godmom's, and I detoxed there, and also waited to get into a program that was in the South San Jose Hills. And that one was an all women's rehab, because at the time I think they were hoping that it was the guys that was the problem. But you know, in that rehab, so in San Jose at this particular rehab, that time I was like, okay, I'm going to stay sober this time, because I got a sponsor, I started doing the steps, I stayed in the inpatient by choice for 5 months. So it was like a 90-day program, but I asked if I could stay longer because I was actually scared to leave, even though I was doing the things that I needed to do. I had never been sober for that long, so I was like, whoa, like, you know, this is I'm kind of scared, because previous to that, first 90 days, I had never gotten past like 2 months, you know, and that was just like 2 times or something, because once in the outpatient and then once in San Francisco, so it was like actually 67 days both times, which is weird. So I made it past that. I was past 90, and they said, okay, you can stay here for a couple more months. So I did, and then I even went into a transitional house after that, or what is it called? Yeah, like sober living. One of the girls who I was at the rehab with also went to that same house, so it was cool, because then I had her, and then I met this other girl that came from a different rehab. When we met at the sober living, we like became close right away. I did stay sober for a year and 10 months that time, and relapse. She was into meth, and I hadn't done meth in a while, like, so I was like more like crack's my thing, right? But I thought I was gonna stay sober. So she ended up relapsing, and I didn't relapse with her, but she told me, right? And then come to find out, the guy that she was seeing could get crack. So then one day I was like, oh, hey, like, you know, what's up? So, you know, she introduced me to him, and then they ended up not seeing each other anymore. And him and I were hanging out because, you know, I was doing crack with him, and he would be, so he would actually like let me hang out at his house. So I didn't want to do it at my apartment. So I only did that for like 2 months, and then I got sober. I was like, okay, I don't think this is good. Like, I was spending all my money on crack. I was calling out of work, right? So within 2 months, I actually was like, all right, I know what to do. I'm going to go to AA. And I did. And I didn't go back to rehab. And I put myself in AA, like, and I just jumped in, got a sponsor, was working the steps. Actually, that was NA, not AA. But still, I was like, yay, look at me. I'm doing it on my own, right? I mean, even though I was using the program, but because nobody had to intervene, I didn't have to go to inpatient, then I really was going to stay clean and sober, right? I had an NA sponsor. I was working the steps with her, but I still never got past the 3rd step at this point. And I really enjoyed, so the Narcotics Anonymous program, I don't know if we're allowed to say that, but the 12-step in San Jose is really good, because it's like so diverse, and there's so many meetings, and like, I just really, really enjoyed, like, I got a good job. That area, I was born out there, right? So I felt like this is where I'm supposed to be, right? Like, I'm back at my birthplace, you know. I just felt very
Connected.
Yeah, like connected, very complete. Like, this is it, you know, like, I'm gonna do this. So and at whatever point it was, I had gotten into a car accident. So I was still sober. I got a prescription for Soma and Vicodin. And because I was clean and sober, I didn't take it at first, because I was like, oh no, I'm not going to take this stuff, right? I had never done opiates. I wasn't into that or whatever, I didn't think. And then I met this guy that I worked with, and his mom was strung out on painkillers, which I obviously didn't know at first, but one time she called while he was at my house, and he put her on speakerphone, and she was like, help me, I need drugs. And we looked at each other, because, you know, she didn't know that she was on speaker, and he was like, I'm sorry. I was like, no, it's good, you know. So when they got off the phone, I was like, hey, so I have a prescription for Vicodin, like I could sell it to her. And he was like, no way, seriously. Anyway, so I was like, cool, look at me, I'm cool, I have a Vicodin prescription, right? So we, like, that same night we drove to wherever and to his mom's, and I sold her some pills. And then I was like, oh, I'm just gonna take some with them. Why not, right? I have, my neck hurts, you know. So that was the whole beginning of my painkiller addiction. And because his mom was already addicted, it was like instant connections all over the San Francisco Bay Area. So, and I had a prescription. So then I went back to the doctor and was like, oh yeah, her, you know, this was, let's see, this had to have been about 2008. So it was in that time where it was so easy to get opioid prescriptions. It was like the big one, you know, oxys and all that. So pretty quickly, him and I, and what's funny is, like, so we were friends for, I don't know, a few years. We worked together. He was gay, I was gay, I thought, whatever. And what ended up happening, because we were so in love with painkillers together, that we basically fell in love, I guess, if you can call it that. And so we ended up getting engaged, and all our friends were like, can you guys not kiss in front of us? That's gross. Because, like, that, I mean, all my friends were gay guys and lesbians or whatever, mostly gay guys. And he had never been with a woman, so I, like, taught him the ropes. And, you know, it's so funny to look at now. We did genuinely love each other, but, like, it wasn't meant to be. We did have real true love, but we were more, like, in love with opioids together. So it got a little bit crazy, because it ended up to where we were living in a trailer with 3 cats. I had quit working because I was so messed up that I just, like, I couldn't get, like, so the job that I was working at, the massage place, they ended up closing. Like, nothing bad happened. It was like a lesbian couple that owned it, and they just decided they wanted to pursue something different. So since that job was lost due to the place closing, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna get more fucked up, right? Because he was working full time and it was fine, right? But it ended up just man, I just didn't have any motivation to try to do anything. So I would just stay home, sleep, get high, like, do nothing. And he was working, and then he was like, hey, what's up? You know, like, are you okay? And he ended up buying a juice bar from his aunt that was inside inside a gym. And so it was like a full espresso bar, like smoothies and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't want him to get it. We had already been engaged for, like, almost 3 years at this point. Or no, I'm sorry, together for almost 3 years at this point, and engaged for I don't know how long, but we got engaged pretty early. I asked him. But anyways, so when he bought the juice bar, we didn't agree on it. Like, I was like, I don't think this is a good idea. Like, we're popping pills all crazy. Like, this is not good. But he did it anyways, and then expected me to work there. And I was like, bro, like, I'm a massage therapist. Like, I can't work at a juice bar. Like, I was just like, that's absurd. Like, I'm not gonna work for, you know, minimum wage or something. And he was like, well, I'm taking care of us. So I did it because he was taking care of us, right? But I had developed resentments, and I ended up cheating with this guy that I had met, I don't even know when, that I did crack with or whatever. And it just got, like, really depressing, you know? So when and I were together, we decided that we were, you know, really wanting to be serious because we were in love, right? So we went and got on methadone. And that way we didn't have to run around all over the San Francisco Bay Area trying to see if we could, you know, get something so we wouldn't be sick in the morning. Chasing opioids and being worried about the withdrawals because they're so terrible, like, worst thing I've ever been through. We tried to get off the pills and we just couldn't do it. You know, it was too horrendous. So we were on methadone, and within, like, a few months of that, I got pregnant. But we weren't being careful, so I got pregnant, and I had accepted it. Like, just because I didn't want kids doesn't mean I was like, you know, I hate kids. I love kids. I just didn't want any of my own, but he really did. So at about 3 months, I miscarried, and that was really extremely traumatizing for both of us. I would say more so for him because he wanted kids his whole life and I didn't. So I was more relieved, but it was still traumatizing, right? I mean, that's just a traumatizing situation. So that it it didn't look good for our relationship after that, because we started fighting more, we grew apart, and then with the juice bar, that was like the final straw, right? So my uncle who lives in Los Angeles, he's the one that was in and out of rehabs and sobriety, like since I could remember. I was talking to him, and he's gay, right? Super like high maintenance, like flamey, queen or whatever. And he was like, so like, how's your life going? Because we're living in a trailer with 3 cats. Like, by this time we got off the methadone and we got on Suboxone, but then we're like doing other drugs, right? So we're like taking Suboxone without not abusing it, taking Suboxone as prescribed, but like popping like Molly, and I don't even know. I was doing like everything randomly, like so terrible. It was, my uncle was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, do you like your life? Like, you and your gay boyfriend living in a trailer with 3 cats, like that's how you want to be? Like, you're good? And I was like, okay, I need help. So this is, still living in Northern California. So my uncle planned to get me into a rehab in Los Angeles. So we planned out the date when I was going to drive down, and it was like, you can't just go to rehab. You have to wait for me. I want to go to rehab too. And I was like, I don't think that's how that works. Like, you can't just wait for your partner to go to rehab. Like, I got to go when I got to go, So even though I had to leave, my 3 cats with him, which I didn't want to do because I wasn't really sure if he was really going to get sober, but I really wanted it. So this is, by now it's 2013. So I leave, I drive down to Los Angeles. Somebody does a couch commitment for me. So I'm like on this lady's couch for like 9 days. And then I get into this inpatient, or this detox. The detox is at the inpatient facility, right? Like a different wing. So I did 2 weeks in the detox, and then you could either go from detox to the inpatient, or they also had a transitional housing program where you would be living at a sober living, but it's like a lot of requirements, right? Like, I guess you could maybe compare it to drug court, just in the way as far as there's all these things you have to do, or you can't live there, right? You have to stay like very like you have to follow all the rules and all that, whatever. So because I had brought myself there, I wasn't on like any kind of, like, I didn't have any legal issues, right? They were like, we think that you will do well if you just go straight from detox into the transitional housing program. So I was excited because, I hadn't been around my uncle a ton, because my uncle always lived in Los Angeles, right? And I always lived in Northern California. So I was excited to be around him because him and I had a lot in common. We're like the gay black sheep addicts of the family or whatever. So I was like, all right, like, this is cool. I'm in Los Angeles now. I'm cool, right? Like, I'm going to stay sober for sure this time. Like, and I really did. I was like, this is it. Every single time. So anyway, so I get into the housing program. I did take it very seriously. Like, I did everything I was supposed to do. I went to all my classes. Like, they had an outpatient like facility where you had to take like basically classes all day long. You had to do, I think, 7 meetings a week. But I was like an overachiever. I would do like 15 meetings a week, or sometimes 2 or 3 meetings a day, and ride the bus all over Los Angeles. And I made friends. There was like 9 houses in this program, and they were all in the same neighborhood, so it was actually really fun. And I got a sponsor. I was working the steps, and this time I did my 4th, 5th. I probably got up to like my 6th or 7th step, but that was it. It was like I was going like in slow motion. But I had never done a 4th and 5th step, so that was like it was a eye-opening experience to like really take a look at myself in the mirror. But I still didn't fully grasp the concept that I was causing all my own problems, right? I was still like blaming stuff on other people, or things that happened to me when I was a kid, or like, I have anxiety and depression, so that's why I can't, make it in life or whatever. So I'm in the program, I'm doing what I need to do, I'm working full time, like I have a car, I have all these friends in recovery, right? And then I just got sidetracked again, so I'm like, I met this girl that I worked with at this nice spa in Santa Monica, and I was like, she's married to a guy, but she was hitting on me so hard, and I was like, oh my god, I'm like, I'm not strong enough, you know. So we started hanging out a lot, and at first it was just friends, right? Like I was helping her take care of her son. She had a 7-month-old when we met, and her husband was always working and always at the gym. He was like a bodybuilder or whatever, and she was just so flirty, and I was just like, oh my god. So I ended up being like, all right, like fuck it, you know. She's like asking for it, so she ended up going to LA Pride with me, and by this time I have like around 2 years sober, longest ever by far. And we're at LA Pride, and then we were like, I was like, you know what, I think I'm gonna have a drink. Like, this is me in my head, right? I'm like, it's fine, like, you know, I'm fine. And because I had been spending so much time with her, I had slowly stopped going to meetings, slowly, you know, stopped talking to my sponsor, all that. And so I was like, yeah, it's fine. I'm just gonna drink and that's it. As long as I just drink, it's fine, right? So yeah, so then I ended up getting really buzzed. We ended up making out, and I was like, you know, I was like in heaven. This girl's so pretty, and like there was something about her being married, right? That like I felt like it was extra, like, what do you want to call it, right? Because it's not the same as when it's like a guy that he's cheating on his wife, which is kind of fucked up. But I was like, oh yeah, watch, I'm gonna turn her lesbian or something. So stupid. It's funny that I really thought that. But anyway, so we were like basically having an affair for I don't know how long, like a year or something. But I started smoking weed with her, and so we were drinking and smoking weed. And I still at that time was like, okay, I had 2 years and 5 months. That's what it was. I relapsed at 2 years and 5 months. So I also told myself that as long as I'm just drinking and smoking weed and it's not affecting my work and I'm still seeing my family and all these little, you know, parameters, that it was going to be fine. Well, it wasn't. Big surprise. We were getting into fights, and then, you know, I went back and forth between wanting her to leave her husband and then wanting her to just to like get away from me, right? And I ended up, after we broke up, I ended up, of all places, there was a girl that was working at a Starbucks I was at, and I was like hitting on her. Come to find out, she was doing a lot of meth, but she was like lying about it, and I don't even know how I finagled, like, I went with her to her drug dealer's house. I didn't do meth, but I ended up getting his number like while she was in the bathroom or something. Because he could get opioids, like he got the little blue whatever, the roxycodone or whatever. And so I started popping pills because I got this connect from this girl I met at Starbucks. Right after I got the guy's number, or the drug dealer's number or whatever, I pretty much stopped talking to her because I was already like, okay, no, like she's like she's like a tweaker. Even though I had been a tweaker way years and years before that. But I was like, I'm better than other people because I'm just popping pills, and they're from the government. Like, the government makes them, so it's okay, right? This is before they started doing like the fentanyl pills and all that shit. Thank God. So yeah, so I started popping pills. I'm popping pills again, right? Still drinking, still smoking weed, but mostly popping like the Roxys or whatever. I realized that I'm losing a lot of weight. I started to lose weight to where I noticed that I wasn't looking healthy anymore. And I didn't think that that would happen because I wasn't doing coke or meth. I was just popping pills. But I did, and I remember being like, I don't look so good, you know? And I was embarrassed to myself, right? Like, I don't know what other people were thinking, if they probably didn't even notice. But to me, I was like, oh, this isn't good. And I'm working at this really nice spa. And I actually transferred to a different location because now that I said I worked at Santa Monica, but actually I met her at the Sherman Oaks location. And then after her and I broke up, I transferred to the Santa Monica location because I couldn't work with her, right? The girl anyways, so I'm like at this even cooler or nicer spa on the Santa Monica 3rd Street Promenade right by the beach. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to fuck this up. Like, I already fucked up my sobriety. Like, you know, I really like this new spa. Like, she's not here. I'm right by the beach. I mean, it was the same company, but just a different location, right? And I was like, man, I should probably get sober again, right? So I was like, all right, the first thing I'm going to do is just get off the painkillers. And once I get off the painkillers, I'll just keep smoking weed. And I had already stopped drinking because when I was doing painkillers, the combination of painkillers with alcohol, I didn't like it. So anytime that I was on painkillers, addicted to them, I wouldn't drink at all because I just didn't like the combination of it. Is not a good feeling. So alcohol was always a second. Like I would pretty much rather do anything besides drink. So alcohol wasn't my thing other than when I couldn't get it or couldn't get drugs. Anyways, so I decided to let's see, what did I do? I think I just took time off of work and I detoxed by myself in my apartment. It was really fucking hard, but because I wasn't, the amount of Roxy's that I was taking did not even come anywhere near what I had been taking before when I ended up getting on methadone or whatever. So I was able to pull it off, like just on my own. Just, it was awful, but also not so severe that I couldn't stay off of them. And I smoked a lot of weed, and I didn't go into a program though. Like I didn't go to AA or anything like that because I still wanted to smoke weed. But in the meantime, so I'm not sure how long I had off of painkillers at this point, but I was talking about in the break room. So it's this huge spa in Santa Monica, right? So like we're talking like 3 stories. There's probably about 80 massage therapists employed there, but there's 3 different shifts. So obviously there's only like 20 of us there at a time, but there's all these different, it was so huge, but it was fun because like massage therapists were kind of like quirky. So in the break room, I don't know what I was talking about, but I was talking something about how when I used to be sober, this and that, whatever. And there was this girl, Sarah, who had started not that long before I guess she overheard this conversation. So I don't really know her. I had been working there for a while. And she was like, hey, so how's that working out for you? And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, well, I just noticed you were talking about, how you used to be sober and like, so, what happened? And she just got really inquisitive about, my life or whatever. And she could tell that I was not that joyful. Even though I had gotten off the opioids, I was still smoking weed, and my life becomes unmanageable whether I'm on substances or not, just from not doing a program, not consistently working on myself. And she had been sober, I think at that time for like 7 years or something. So it's super obvious to her. She's like, oh, this girl like should probably get sober again, but we can't like try to get people to be sober. So she just got really curious and asked me a lot of questions. And she ended up, I don't want to say convincing me, but having that outlet of a person in the program that does AA, and her just being there for me and asking me questions and kind of like starting me back into thinking about like, oh yeah, like it is better when I'm sober and working a program, So she asked me if I needed help with like getting rid of the weed and the paraphernalia. And so she did. She helped me. Like we decided on a date. It was all cute. Like, okay, I'm gonna get rid of it this day, and I actually gave it to this guy that we worked with that smoked weed that I was friends with, and that way he could just, it was just, here you go. And then so let's see. So I stayed sober actually for about 9 months, and so now we're up to 2017, and I decided that it would be okay if I did mushrooms, because mushrooms is like for a spiritual experience. That's what I told myself. It was a really cool spiritual experience. Me and one of my friends did it together at my apartment, and I did not say that I was still sober. It was a lie, right? Because I did lots of relapse, but I didn't think about it like that. So the beginning of 2017, my dad that lives in Boise, Idaho, he, after my parents' divorce, he moved back here and got remarried. So that was, years ago now, but me and my brother would come out here to visit him, but he ended up having a heart attack. It was in February of 2017, and it was really bad. He had to have quadruple bypass surgery. So I came out here to visit him, and my brother and sister-in-law were like, they had my nephews who at the time they were like 5 and 8 or something like that. They were like, hey, we're gonna actually move to Boise because we want to be able to raise our kids in like a better environment. Because this whole time, so I had left Modesto years and years earlier, right? But they had still been in Modesto this whole time. And they were like, we're going to look for a house, and maybe you can, you know, get out of Los Angeles if you want, like when we get a house. And it was like coincidental, I guess, if you will, or a God thing, that they were planning to look for a house and move out here around the same time that my dad had his first heart attack. And then, so I'm like, you know, thinking, but I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to leave California. I don't want to leave the beach. But 2 months later, my dad had another heart attack. So this is in April of 2017. And so even though I had done mushrooms still like a few times, like I still was proclaiming sobriety. Technically wasn't sober, but I was only doing mushrooms, and I only did them a few times. So, you know, those are the excuses that we make, right? I was like, it's just mushrooms this time. It's not even weed. And it's just like 3 times. It's only 3 times. It's fine, right? It's totally fine. But when my dad had the second heart attack, what happened was I was working at the spa. I come out of the room, like I'm finishing massage my client. I come out and my manager's there, and he's like, hey, you need to call your mom. Like, don't worry, you have the rest of the day off. You need to go outside and call your mom right now. And I thought my dad died. That's what I thought, because that's like kind of a big deal. Like, you have the day off, right? Like you can leave, like go call your mom right now, you know? And so, but no, it was that he had another heart attack, and he was in a coma, like an induced coma, because his body was so swollen or something, that they needed to just, I don't know, all the medical stuff. But anyways, so hopped on a plane, like I got the first flight out here that I could. So I flew to Boise, and I stayed here for 3 weeks because I wanted to help my dad recover. And at first when I got here, he was like, it was like Groundhog Day. Like when he finally was able to come out of the coma, he would wake up or, you know, in the morning, and he didn't know why he's in the hospital. He didn't know how long he was in there or anything. And that lasted for like a week. And then finally, like, because I just go there every day. I was staying with my aunt and uncle, and then my brother and sister-in-law. Oh yeah, by then my brother and sister-in-law had actually already got their house and moved into it, and then he had the second heart attack. So it was like a total God thing that they were already here. So I was staying with them too, and then, so, you know, going back and forth to my aunt and uncle, my brother and sister-in-law and the kids, and then my stepmom, you know, my dad's wife, just to like visit with everybody and stuff. But I was at the hospital every day too, and so I remember that when he woke up and finally like remembered what was going on, you know, and I was like, you know, I wanted to talk to him about, you know, getting sober, because, you know, as I mentioned earlier, my dad's an alcoholic, and he also would smoke weed all the time. And I don't know what else he did, because he didn't really share that with me, but I'm like, you just had 2 heart attacks, right? So I was like trying to have a conversation with him about getting sober. And he wasn't interested, and that was like something that I had to like really like radically accept, which wasn't easy. But I did, on that visit in April of 2017, make the final decision that yes, I will leave Los Angeles and move to Boise, because I wanted to be close to my dad. Like, you know, we don't know like how long he's gonna last or whatever. And it is really peaceful out here, and a slower pace of life. It's different today than it was back then. But to me, like when you move from Los Angeles to Boise, it's like completely different, right? This is like, to me still, this is a very small town. But anyways, so once I moved here, because I was still claiming sobriety because I was only doing mushrooms, I did get into going to AA meetings right away. Being that I was like an out lesbian at the time, I felt like I would only be comfortable going to gay meetings, right? Well, at the time, and even still probably, there's only like a couple LGBT meetings, LGBTQIA+. It was mostly guys. So a perfect excuse for me to not go, right? Because I'm like, man, I don't really fit in. Like, they're just dudes. Like, there's not really any chicks. Like, this is kind of bunk, you know? But still, I had, even though I wasn't doing a lot of AA, I would still go a little bit. But I was not doing, and I still wasn't doing anything else. I would do mushrooms, and I had this belief that if you do mushrooms at least every 3 months, that it's going to help maintain mental health, which, I mean, you know, there's studies about it, whatever, but I'm an addict. I can't, you know, I'm an alcoholic, I'm an addict. That's not the life for me. But it's what I said at the time to myself. I started working at this massage place at the end of 2017, and my manager there, I was like, as soon as I met her, I was like, oh, she's the one, that's it. Like, it was like instant, like everything about her I felt like so connected and drawn to. And like for the next 6 months, I like made it like my mission to be with her, right? And it was fun. Like, I would just try to make her laugh. That was always my thing. Like, I want to make this girl laugh because she's too serious. She didn't want to hang out with me because she was the manager, but it would, like, if it was a group thing, because there was other friends I made at this place, because, you know, I didn't have a lot of friends. I when you're in your late 30s and you move to a completely different city, state, whatever, it's not easy to make friends. So the friends that I made were people that I worked with. So anyways, it wasn't long. It wasn't like, it didn't feel like a relapse necessarily because I wasn't doing AA anyways, and so I don't really remember, but I did start drinking. And then I started smoking weed. Oh, I know. So the first night that I hung out with her was after I quit my job. So now she's not my manager. I got a different job so I could try to get this girl, because that was one of the reasons. She was like, well, I'm your manager. Like, we work together. Like, I'm not going to date you, right? So I quit my job because I really wanted this girl. And the first time that we hung out, it was at a bar. And that very first night I drank. I don't think I had started drinking. It's not her fault. Not her fucking fault, right? Like, I chose to. But also, while I was having that first drink, one of her friends that was there was like, oh, hey, I have some Vicodin. Do you want some? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, instant, just like that. There was no thought or anything. And within 5 seconds of her giving it to me, it was already in my body. And I didn't even feel bad or anything. I was just like, oh, it's fine. You know, that age old thing that always, when my brain tells me like it's fine, that's when it's not fucking fine. Like, I know that now, right? Like, if I hear it's fine, I'm like, all right, let me call my sponsor. Let me go to a meeting or whatever. I became so obsessed and stuck on this girl. I needed to work on myself a lot more. And I couldn't see that at the time, right? In my mind at the time, this girl is like my soulmate. Like, we're meant to be. So I'm going to do whatever it takes to be with her. And so I suppressed like who I really was, which now looking back, I didn't really even know who I was. But I got lost in her really quickly. And so, you know, if she wanted to do some coke, I'm going to do some coke. If she wanted to, you know, and then I'm the one like, oh, hey, let's do some coke, you know, because I wanted to be, and I'm not blaming her, you know, I'm a grown ass woman, but the point of it being like, you know, I lost myself so hard in her, like never before. Like, even to this day, it's like when you meet a person who like impacts your life so deeply that, like, I'll never be the same in the sense, I mean, other people have made an impact on me, but I don't know, dude, something about this girl just kind of fucked me up, you know, and it took a long time to let that go. But anyways, so we're getting high and whatever, hanging out. She finally does give me a chance. We get together. It's toxic as fuck. Like, I'm super emotional, too needy, like wanting her to be a certain way. And expecting things from her that I couldn't even provide, right? But I loved her so much, like, that it was just like the worst heartbreak I've ever experienced in my life. Like, but I felt like I broke my own heart, you know, because I should have seen like the signs that it wasn't going to work out, like, long before it didn't work out. But at the time I couldn't understand why it wasn't working, but I just like fell apart and completely lost myself. So when she broke up with me, we were only actually officially together for like not even, I think it was like 6 months or something. When she broke up with me, I was so devastated that, like, it's not that I wanted to die, it was like the opposite. Like, I wanted to fix myself, right? And from that moment on, I like just wanted to be good enough for her so that she would give me another chance. And so I got sober like that night. The night that she broke up with me, we were getting ready to go out to like the balcony or whatever. And I was like, why would you break up with me? Like, right, like we're literally out of her house getting ready. And I was like, fuck that, I'm still gonna go, right? And I got totally trashed. Like, I was so drunk that some girl was sitting next to me. I don't even know, like, I was sitting at the bar or something, and some girl was sitting next to me and she kept on kissing me, but I was so drunk that it didn't even register the, like, where I was, or like, and then later on I was like, thanks for, like, because we met up with some other friends there, Like, thanks for like protecting me or taking care of me, you guys. Like, they look like nobody came up to me of our friends being like, oh hey, like, are you okay, come on. Like, they just like, you know, I forgot about that. So I got sober. The sponsor who I had in Los Angeles, that helped me get sober in Los Angeles, I called her and I asked her for help. And I honestly don't remember very well, but I know I stayed sober for something like 4 months, something like that. I might have went to, I think I did. Yeah, I did go to AA here because I met, so my current sponsor, I met her and a couple other people that I know, again, now that I got sober again, right? There's only a few people who met me back then, who I have in my life now, right after getting sober again. I think it was just like in and out of sobriety for a little bit. Like, I got a sponsor, I got a local sponsor, that's right. So my old sponsor kind of like helped, whatever, support, but I got an in-person sponsor, and I just couldn't stay sober. I just couldn't. Like, I just kept on relapsing, and you know, I kept trying to stay friends with people, and it just, it wasn't good for me, but I couldn't see that at the time. So I couldn't put any substantial time together, right? But I also wasn't really doing step work. I would go to meetings, but I wasn't doing anything, like, I wasn't doing any writing. I didn't, you know, just because I had a sponsor doesn't mean I was working the steps. And then I think I had put together like 3 or 4 months, and then when COVID happened, I got really, really anxious, like severe. I was having like panic attacks, and so I ended up, one of my friends had a prescription to Xanax, and I hit her up, and at the time I didn't consider it a relapse until I started drinking, right? Because it's just Xanax, and I have legit anxiety, plus like the whole world shut down, like what the fuck is going on, right? So it's fine. But I bought like 100 Xanax off of her, and I was taking them and then going grocery shopping for people that were like scared to leave their house. It was before all the grocery delivery stuff started. And then I started drinking, and I remember being like, I'm gonna start drinking. Like, I consciously made the choice to start drinking, even though the Xanax to me wasn't using. It was, but it wasn't, right? I remember being like, I was telling one of my friends who's in Al-Anon, I was like, I'm gonna start drinking. She was like, what? No, I don't think that's a good idea. And I was like, yeah, it's fine. Like, it's fine, right? When I hear that, I was like, it's fine. Like, I'm just at home by myself. Like, and she's like, I really don't think that's a good idea. And I was like, it's fine. And so I started drinking. I was in the hot tub. My mom and I had bought a house together at that time, and I was just in the middle of the day, you know, in my backyard in the hot tub, just drinking a beer, you know, and then it was like, then I started smoking weed again. I feel like, I don't know, it just starts getting blurry at different times because so much has happened. So she's like doing something else, and I'm like, hey, are you okay? Like, you know, because me, I'm not like, you know, strung out. I'm doing stuff, but like, I'm justifying it because I'm working full time. I'm still seeing my family, seeing my nephew, seeing my dad. Like, my mom had moved here, like I said, so we had a house, and I was like, I'm fine. Like, I'm just doing drugs sometimes, you know, like I wasn't doing anything every day.
And you made good money at that time, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, doing massage full time, I make really good money. Yeah. So it's like, I'm working full time. Oh yeah. And then my mom and I ended up selling the house. I got my own apartment. It's like really nice new apartment. Yeah, I'm paying all my bills. Like, you know, everything's, to me, is fine. So I don't know what she was doing, but I'm asking her what she's doing and not really getting like truthful answers, in my opinion. And so in January of 2021, I don't know if she overdosed or she tried to kill herself. I don't know what she did. I honestly don't to this day know. But what happened was that she couldn't live where she was living anymore, and she ended up starting to stay with me for a few months. And it probably wasn't until like March or something. I don't know what was going on, but I don't like to put other people's business out there. But also, like, it was to where she was really unstable and like housing insecurity or whatever because of what she was doing. So I let her stay with me in my apartment. So now we're in 2021. It was like, I was trying to get sober, she was trying to get sober, then we would do drugs together, then we would try. It was like, you know, it was fucked up. is what it was. It was fucked up. It was just really fucked up. I didn't have any business thinking that I could like try to take care of somebody or help this person get sober when I wasn't even sober, right? And of course I still have feelings for her. Like I've got in the back of my mind, like, maybe we could get back together, because we were cuddling every night when she lived with me. And that was it. It was just cuddling. And I wasn't aware that like we were playing house or whatever. That's not really how I saw it at all. I just thought, that maybe someday I would be like good enough for her to want to be back with, right? So June 2021, and I getting high, whatever, and then we went out to eat, and I didn't know that she had like opioids on her. So she goes to the bathroom, apparently snorted a pill, and she comes out and she just like falls out. Like I had to catch her off the bar stool or whatever. And it was really scary because I thought that we had made this agreement that we would tell each other if each other's going to do opiates, so that like, because this was after the fentanyl and all that started coming out. I had never actually done fentanyl, so I didn't know much about it other than that they were making fake pills, right? So I'm like, help, please somebody call 911. Like I was really scared. This is like the scariest I've ever been in my life. Because I thought she was gonna die. Like I didn't even consider that she was overdosing, because I trusted her so much that I thought she would have told me if she had done opioid or had opioids, whatever. So thank God there was 2 nurses there that came like from 2 different tables and were like holding her pulse, and they were like kind of instructing me like to put her on her side and all this. And they were like, if she goes into cardiac arrest, or if she stops breathing, we're gonna do CPR or whatever. And the paramedics came, they take her, because I'm just a friend, I can't go in the ambulance. So I'm like, what the fuck is going on, right? So I drive to the ER, whatever, and they won't tell me anything because I'm not family, right? But since I knew that she was there and I knew her name and whatever, they were like, we can tell you that yes, the ambulance did arrive, she is here, that's all we can tell you. They're like, she's gonna wake up and hopefully ask for you or whatever. So I'm like out front of the ER, like pacing back and forth, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Like I still was in denial about she probably overdosed. I did tell the paramedics that she used to be a heroin addict, but like I'm just like, okay, do I call her family? Do I call my mom? What do I do? And I'm like literally freaking out in my head, and I decided not to call anybody because what am I even gonna say? I don't know what to say. So I'm waiting. Finally, they give her Narcan. She asked for me. I go in there. I'm sitting in the hospital room with her, and I'm like what's going on? Like, what are you afraid? Like, why don't you want to get sober? Like, why don't you want to do the program? Like, what's what? And she's like, I'm just afraid that if I do the program, it won't work. Like, it's not going to work on me. And I was like, well, I mean, you could just do, like, I've done it, and she was like, yeah, but all you've ever shown me was that it doesn't work. And I was just like, fuck, like it felt like somebody sucker punched. Like I was like, what the fuck? Like, how was I telling this person like how much I love them and all this, and then I'm showing them that the program doesn't work because I'm so fucked up and so emotional and so like, why won't you be with me, and look at me, poor me, I need help, like getting all high and being dramatic. And I mean, I wasn't trying to be dramatic intentionally. I really did not know like that I was being manipulative with her up until that point. And then I was like, dang, dude, like some like friend / wannabe lover I am, like the person that I supposedly want to be with forever, like I'm literally showing them that like AA doesn't work when like I know that it does because it's worked for me before. And after that I was like, okay, well, I'm done. I mean, it wasn't like I couldn't express that to her really at the time, other than we went home and we talked all night, and it was kind of like I felt like, okay, I'm really for real, 100% for sure, this is the most done I've ever been, right? Like ever. But about 10 days later, about 11 days later, she wanted to get high, and I was so scared that she was gonna die that I let her, because I was like, I'm not getting high, like I'm done, like fuck that, you know. I was like, she was like, well, I'm gonna leave, and I was like, no, don't leave, just do it here, you know. So she had somebody drop some shit off, and then I ended up doing it. You know, it was just smoking coke or whatever on foil, which is disgusting. I was, anyways. And that day was like, that was June 26th of 2021, and it was like the worst I've ever felt in my entire life. Not because, I mean, yeah, it was a shitty high, but I was just like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? Like, I love this person. I'm like enabling her. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but this is not okay. Like, I can't live like this. Like, I can't be this, like, what's the word when, like, I felt like a hypocrite, right? And so we ended up hooking up, and then right after that, like, and she started crying, and I was just like, oh my God, like, and then she started being hella mean to me, like, but that night when we were arguing, I was like, I'm fucking done, dude. I'm done. And guess what? I'm done. Also, I'm fucking done. And I have been sober since then. And I mean, whatever it took, what it took, I guess. But I've been disgusted by drugs and alcohol since that day. Like, when I woke up on June 27th, my sobriety day, I was like, ever since then, I've gone hard. Like, with recovery and sobriety, I was like, that's it, I'm done. And I got a sponsor, I started working the steps. Like, it was just like, and I didn't rush, but I also just did it, you know, like every single day. Like, I'm gonna even had my sponsor said, hey, like, you gotta sleep on that park bench for like 3 days or a week, or I would have did anything. Like, I was like, I'm so fucking done that I'll do anything right now. Whatever I'm gonna do, I'm not gonna do drugs. And I remember being like, it wasn't even hard. I mean, recovery is hard, it's emotional, right? But as far as substances go, like, it's not hard, and it hasn't been hard. I don't want to do it. It's disgusting. It's like, I'm repulsed. And a big part of it is because of what I participated in with her, because it was like, yeah, I was being a hypocrite for much longer than I realized, right? And being manipulative and being like just thinking that I could save this person when I couldn't even save myself, you know? And I was disgusted with myself about that. So yeah, since then it's been kind of wild and crazy. Like, and when I first got sober, at 5 days, I almost took my own life because why she was still living with me and we were fighting. And I was like, what the fuck, dude? Like I was still trying to help her even though I had 5 days sober. It just, anyways, we got into an argument and she told me fuck you, and who knows what I said. So I went to the mental hospital. I would say that it was the most scared I've been of taking my own life, because I've tried before, but this time I was like, I'm gonna do it. Like, so I thank God I had already had a sponsor, so I called her and she helped me get into Intermountain Hospital. And she was like, take your big book, you know. So I had it, and you know, it's like I was already going to meetings in the first 5 days anyways, but like, it's just I had like sat in the hospital, or the psychiatric facility, as we say, that's the correct way to say it. The psychiatric facility that I was at, Intermountain, I sat in there and reflected like of my whole life, right? Literally, I thought about everything, and I was like, every single time that I stayed sober for a chunk of time, I was in the program with a sponsor, working the steps, making recovery like a lifestyle. And I was like, that's interesting. I don't know why I didn't connect that before. I mean, really, come on. I'm like, well, however, so I was like 41 at this point, you know? But you know, it takes what it takes. So I realized that I needed to just commit to AA like fully forever, one day at a time, right? Because it's always, the program has always been like a rock, and you know, it's the foundation of not just like my, you know, abstinence from drugs and alcohol, but like to continue to work on myself, because I'm like batshit crazy, right? I have the mental health issues that I also have to deal with on top of the issue of alcoholism and addiction. But it's like, it takes multiple different avenues, right? So like my spirituality and like going to counseling, and I have medication management, but like without the program, like none of that other stuff even exists, right? Like I can't maintain any kind of therapy or any kind of help for myself if I'm not like focusing on like the foundation of AA and the program. And now I like love that. Like I love being in AA, and I love like the lifestyle that I've created, which is like just drugs and alcohol isn't even part of my life, like at all. Like, I mean, not even in my brain, you know, it just never sounds good. So that's a blessing. But anyways, so within the first, let's see, I had like 100 and something days sober, and my uncle, the one who was also in and out of treatment and everything, I was in the rehab with him in Los Angeles. He died of a fentanyl overdose, and that was some really fucked up shit to experience. Like, God, like, or thank God that I was sober already. Actually, when I got the phone call, she was at my house, and I was I guess helping her detox, if you will. She was passed out. I was, you know, making her eat and stuff. And I'm glad that I wasn't by myself. And I actually thought at the time that maybe that would be enough to like want her, like get her to want to stay sober, because, you know, she got to see like how traumatized I was when I got that news. Of course, that's not how that went, but it doesn't matter. So like, I was able to go down to Los Angeles and help my mom, like, you know, go through his stuff. I was so adamant about, because my mom, she's like a normie, right? So I didn't want her to see like I didn't know what his apartment even looked like. But even though I was only 100 and something days sober at this point, I knew that I could do it. Like, I knew that I could handle going into his place and seeing whatever I was going to see without wanting to use or drink, because I don't know, that's just been my existence ever since I got sober this time. So we went out and we held hands and prayed, and we propped the door open with a trash can or whatever, and I went through his apartment for 3 hours and got all the drugs and paraphernalia. I mean, it was insane what I was able to walk through just with God by my side at such an early stage in my recovery, because I was so dedicated to my new life, and I was so done that like God just walked me through it. It was easy. I mean, it's hard because my uncle passed away. I'm at his apartment. There's drugs, you know, there's stuff everywhere. And, you know, somebody had broken in, it was trash, but I was able to do that so that my mom didn't have to see that stuff, you know. The sponsor at the time was like, so just get like, you know, a turkey pan and get a 2-liter Coca-Cola, fill it up, and then every time you find something, just put it in there. So that's what I did. I had like a little Coca-Cola bath and a turkey pan, and all the, you know, pipes and whatever I found, it just went right into there. So, you know, and then dump that into a garbage bag full of like old rags or whatever, tie it up and throw in the dumpster. That's what we did, you know. So my mom is still eternally grateful that I was able to do that, so she didn't have to experience the, you know, because she hasn't been around it, and it would, you know, it's traumatizing enough that she lost her baby brother, you know. So since then, man, that shit was fucked up, dude. I mean, it's like, but if I wasn't already which I was 100% done with drugs and alcohol, after that was it. Like, that just like solidified it. Like, I'm fucking done, and I'm so grateful that I still have that same feeling. I have now, let's see, 4.5 years. So on the 27th of December, it'll be exactly 4 years and 6 months. So it's coming up like in a week, right?
What's the longest you've had?
This is the longest. The longest I had before this was 2 years and 5 months, and that was in Los Angeles before I met that girl, or before I relapsed with her, or whatever.
Have you been in a relationship since you've gotten sober?
I've been in a couple like long distance, very short-term relationships. I don't know about that again. Like, I don't know. I'm just like, right now, for the first time, maybe the last 2 years, for the first time ever in my life, literally ever in my life, have I been happy as a single person. So previous to the last about 2 years, I always I want to be with somebody. I want to be in a relationship. I'm sad because I'm single. So I haven't been in a relationship locally. I didn't even talk about this. Okay, so around the same time that my uncle passed away, I started getting weird symptoms that I didn't know what they were. It would be like, to describe it, like COVID, but without the flu symptoms. So, you know, chest tightness, shortness of breath, fatigue, brain fog, headaches, dizziness, loss of coordination. I didn't know what it was for a while. I had to change primary doctors. And anyways, what led to me getting a neurologist, which led to me going to the long COVID clinic. I was diagnosed with long COVID and eventually POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. I won't get real into it because it's just, but basically my nervous system doesn't work. So dysautonomia, that's what that means. My blood doesn't get circulated the way that it's supposed to, so it causes extreme fatigue, brain fog, dizziness. I ended up quitting my job because I couldn't function. Like I was, and it felt like I was dying, right? Like the chest tightness and shortness of breath and the dizziness and the fatigue and the headache, it was so bad, and the tremor, like I thought, oh, all right, well, I got sober and now I'm going to die from a heart attack. Like, that's what it felt like. I felt like I was dying, and it was really scary. But so when I got the POTS diagnosis and found out that I wasn't actually dying, that was something I could manage. So as a result of, not being able to work full time because I felt, awful, even though once I got the diagnosis and I stopped having the panic attacks, I still have such extreme fatigue and brain fog that I still don't have the energy to work full time at all. I barely even work part time. So I just go to people's houses now and do massages for people that I know. It's kind of embarrassing because I've never needed to be on food stamps and Medicaid other than when I was like, in a rehab because I wasn't working because I was so messed up on drugs. Like being a sober person and having to utilize state and federal assistance is not something that I ever thought I would have to do. I'm super grateful that those are available to me. I've also been able to get on Section 8 housing, but being that I've been a massage therapist for past over 25 years and making really good money most of my life, right? Because I started doing massage at 19. It's been very humbling for me to be very limited on my income. And this happened, around the same time that I got sober, right? So two things. One, not being able to work full time allowed me to focus solely on recovery, right? So AA and the program became a full-time job in the beginning. So I'm grateful for that too, because although I couldn't see it at the time, it allowed me to build this very solid foundation. And then two, I didn't know that I could have this much peace. Inner peace is something that I've never had. I mean, for any substantial amount of time. I've always wrestled with things in my brain. I, obsess. I've always been not just overanalyzing, but just unable to accept things for what they are and always wanting something different, or, just didn't have the level of gratitude that I have now. Like gratitude and inner peace are the best. It's the best feeling in the world, right? Because no matter what's going on, I don't make hardly any money, I can't do a lot of things that I used to be able to just do nothing, I was just oh, I'm gonna go on a trip, okay, bye, I'm going, I just kind of did whatever I wanted in that sense, the financial freedom that I used to have that I don't have at all now. But I will pick this with the peace of mind, I'm free. I'm a free you know what I mean? Because I don't there's nothing that can happen now that can make me want to you know what I mean? Nothing's going to take away my peace. Nothing's going to take away the acceptance that I have, because I've already accepted and my way through my uncle dying, all these different things that have happened that that could have been, it could have been in any other situation, devastating, and I could be angry about it or whatever, but I'm not. I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful for my sobriety, my recovery, and the real the genuine friendships that I have now that I've never had either. I have so much to be grateful for, and I genuinely have this inner peace that I didn't think was possible, and it's been such a beautiful thing. So I can sit here and say that I am very poor financially, but I am very, very rich in spirit, and that's what matters the most. So yeah.